Om. With pranams to Lord Ganesha, with humble, heartfelt namaskars to all readers and listeners. A story dedicated and offered as a humble offering on 15th August 2020 to all freedom fighters, martyrs, soldiers, and defense personnel without whose infinite sacrifices none of us would have existed. And now, from the prolific pen of stinky, grumpy Grandpa Pandemonium, from his recently re excavated, dilapidated, derelict, decrepit warehouse of recycled, reserved, rehashed, remixed, redundant, regurgitated, repeated, remodeled, repaired, refurbished, repolished stories. Tunu tunu, tararararara. Title of the story: Hickory Dickory Dock, or the Mouse's Red Shining Hat. Dig 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 dig. Part 4 of Total 4 begins. The end. Or is it? So, coming back to the ending part of our story. The king was a bit upset or miffed at being upstaged by a mere mouse who was stealing the whole show and drawing public attention away by his theatrics. Perhaps the king too was an ass, attention seeking syndrome victim. Whatever be the reason, the king was not at heart a spiteful or unreasonable person. In fact, without turning the whole matter into a prestige issue, he laughed off the public ire or anger as a fleeting fit of mass hysteria. In a whim of pity and generosity, but more probably because he was bored of the ruckus, the king ordered the palace guard to return the hat to Mr. Mouse. Oh, let them have it if they so much really want it. Let them hatch a whole hamper full of hats, for little do I care. Thus spake the king. Then, with a wave of his royal hand, the king dismissed with disdain as a matter not worthy of his royal attention or of any further consideration. Accordingly, the palace guard lifted the hat from the dustbin with the tip of his sword and tossed it back into the courtyard, right into the face of Mr. Mouse, who was busy giving interviews to all and sundry. Now, a lesser mortal, having got back his prized possession after so much struggle from the government, would happily tuck it under his arm and at once scamper home. But not so our Mr. Mouse with a grouse. On the contrary, he foolishly misinterpreted or misunderstood or misjudged the whole episode as the king having caved in to his bullying. Having got addicted to the media attention, Mr. Mouse again approached all news channels wearing his hat and started squeaking, "Hickory Dickory Dock, the king is scared, he returned my cap. The king is afraid, he returned my cap. The king is frightened, he returned my cap. Hickory Dickory Dock. Victory to our hat movement! Victory to all hat lovers! Victory to all hat wearers! Every hat must have a jingle, every hat must tinkle and dingle. Hickory Dickory Dock." But the king was neither frightened nor scared nor afraid. He was only infuriated, piqued, furiously angry, and fed up of Mr. Mouse's antics and the public's outcry over any of his actions. He swung into action. Why, that rapscallion rodent of the rabble-rousing variety, That rascal of a rat raising a din by his poisonous prattle, stirring up public passion and prejudices and provoking them to protest and agitate, inciting people with inflaming speeches, behaving as if he is more important than he really is, getting too big for his own boots. I will set right this brat of a rat. Calling me a scaredy cat? I will give him now a fright of his life. He will even forget to pick up his fallen pants, let alone his shining red new hat. Scaredy cat indeed. Lifting his sword, the king charged. At this stage of the story, it forks out into two different endings. The listener can pick or choose any one or happily settle with both. Fork ending 1. Now the queen of the kingdom was a shrewd woman and knew how to tackle the worst of people. First, she soothed down the angry king in a variety of secret ways she knew best in their private bedchamber. Then she sent her trusted diplomats to convince Mr. Mouse to take up a lucrative post in the royal court, suiting his talent for a handsome salary. The diplomats discussed with Mr. Mouse and described and praised the post as a very prestigious one with paraphernalia of perquisites such as an assured prime position in every public parade and royal festival or court event. Mr. Mouse readily agreed, much to the pleasure and relief of dear Mrs. Hickory Dickory Dock. The only difference was that no matter what Mr. Mouse said or did now, no one took him seriously anymore but had a hearty laugh at his antics, for it was the most purposeless, pointless post in which he could fool around and make everyone laugh. It was the post of the Royal Court Jester. And that's how Mr. Allwind Itchwall Hickory Dickory Dock became the all-time favorite joker in every pack of cards. Fork ending 2. The king's shrewd and wise queen buttered a piece of bread toast and set a trap for Mr. Mouse. The smell of the buttered toast was so overpowering that the mouse immediately ran to taste it. While he was busy nibbling at it, the queen let loose a hungry tomcat upon him. The tomcat just pounced upon him, and before Mr. Mouse could utter or squeak a word, swallowed him up, leaving no trace, right from the top of his hat with bells to down to the tip of his tail with its suit and socks and shoes and all. And that was the end of Mr. Allwind Hickory Dickory Dock. As public memory stores less than a sieve and is more fickle than a fly, his absence was not missed or noticed. However, the only side effect or demerit the tomcat suffered after gulping down Mr. Mouse was that there is a jingle and a tinkle of the red hat's dingler wherever he goes. So, next time you hear a tinkle or a jingle, be sure that the cat is near. Lessons from the story. 1. Never indulge or argue with or react to fools. Either way, we lose. 2. Sometimes people or life events puts us in a situation such that you are damned if you do and damned if you don't. 3. interacting or reacting to people with Mr. Mouse's pugnacious like or very eager to start an argument or a fight or a quarrelsome mentality will only damage you. 4. Even a small mouse has a huge nuisance value. 5. Those who laugh at or speak foul or make fun or find faults of or try to fool others have to themselves face the music soon. 5. Never meddle with a mouse or you will land up in a messed up muddle. 6. Many times in life we are trapped or tricked into doing stupid or wrong things by cunning people or led by mob hysteria to act or do just because others are doing it without thinking whether or not it suits or benefits us. In such situations, using our discerning power or Sad Vivek Buddhi in Marathi is very important. 7. Never ever overdo things. Quit when the going is good. Don't try the patience of a person too much, or you will lose more than what you started with. Not only did the mischievous mouse lose his red pointed pretty hat, but also had to forfeit his life due to his over smartness. So, without trying your patience further, end of part 4 of total 4. The end, or is it? A few extra thousand words by the author. 1. This elaborated, elongated, elastic story is based on a very famous short Marathi folk story. I presume almost all Marathi children must have heard of it. Undarachi Lal Topi. It is of a rabble-rousing rat with his new red cap who becomes a nuisance for the king. 2. Any resemblance to any political events are maliciously intentional and purposely described in a not so veiled manner so that readers can enjoy identifying real life events and political leaders with situations and characters in the story. 3. Reading or hearing words and phrases in daily conversation and using them in day-to-day situations keeps them alive and kicking, not by parroting them from a dictionary or a pedantic boring syllabus. 4. Special thanks to Siddo Bhandankar, also known as Siddhesh Bhaindarkar, for his technical help, but more so for his unique contribution of the world's worst jokes, more insipid or tasteless than a college canteen menu or more washed out than Mumbai monsoons, flatter than a punctured tire or a burst balloon, and more repulsive than the sound of scratching nails grating on glass or a soggy and smelly stinky sock. I think the listener got my damned overstressed point. 5. Also, special thanks to Alisha Santikari, without whose efforts and technical support, my stories would not have seen the digital online light at the end of the dark tunnel of oblivion. 6. Tipsy thanks to Chandrakant Sant for his technical help. All copyrights of the story are retained by the author, Mr. Parag Raje. Thank you, dear listener. Thank you. Dig, 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 dig.